You do not need to know how to draw to be able to paint with watercolors like a pro. Today I am sharing what I do to be able to paint perfectly with watercolors without having to draw. I'll be sharing what is probably the one hack I use that improves my watercolor skills every time. Professionals do it all the time too, and that's because it saves them a lot of time and money. So are you ready? Let's do this. I guess the most well-known way to do it is using carbon paper or transfer paper or graphite paper. And this is how you use it. This is mine. For some carbon paper, you will be able to erase the lines. This one, I don't think is one of them, but let's give it a try. Okay, so here's how you do it. This is my watercolor paper. I put it underneath everything else. And then I have a cute little hydrangea that I want to pass on to my paper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my carbon paper, I'm going to put it, this is the ink by the way, so I'm going to put it towards the part of the ink is next to the watercolor paper, and this is my drawing. So watercolor paper, carbon paper, whatever it is you want to transfer onto the watercolor paper, right? And now you get a pencil with a fine tip, and a mechanical pencil would actually be better because the tips are really fine, and you just start to draw the whole thing. Always tape your paper onto the carbon paper, okay? Because you do not want this to shift while you're trying to trace it. Ideally, you would tape it to the whole thing, but since my carbon paper is actually bigger than my paper, I cannot do that. And then, whenever you want to check your progress, you just lift it up and there you go. See? That's what you're trying to do. You don't need to make a very big line, okay? You want this to be soft. Professionals face the exact same issue. They've drawn something and they want to make several copies of it. Well, not really copies because they are painting each one themselves. But if you're going to draw the whole thing each time you want to make a copy, it's very time consuming and they can make mistakes and whatnot. But if they find a way to get that line art into paper, all they need to do is paint. It's so much easier, right? They won't have to start from scratch. And we do not want to press our hand too strongly because you may be transferring, your fingertips onto the paper and get a big smudge. Let's see how we did. And look at that. How easy was that, guys? Now, the con to this is I can already see a lot of smudges from pressing my hand, my fingers, etc. And this is the biggest con of using carbon paper, okay? It's very easy to smudge. And like I said, I suspect I will not be able to erase it, but let's see. Well, you can definitely tone it down. Yeah, it does not erase it. Quick disclaimer though, I am in no way saying you should take other people's work and pass it off as your own, okay? That isn't it. But when we're starting out, one of the big issues is knowing what to paint, and if we wait around for inspiration to strike us to draw something from scratch, it will just never happen. It is too intimidating. So we just paint stuff other people have created, and that's fine. It's practice. It's totally okay. Moving on, if dealing with transfer paper is too complicated for you, there's an even cheaper and quicker way to do it. We get a chalk stick or a graphite stick or even a pencil like this one. Any pencil will do really. You can use HB, which is the most common one, but the greasier and softer the pencil, the better the results. We take whatever we want to transfer, and don't forget to use some tape to stick the image to the watercolor paper, okay? We don't want it to shift. It needs to be in the exact same position the entire time. But you don't need to tape the whole thing either, okay? You want to check on your progress now and then. And let's see how we're doing before we continue. If our pencil is strong enough. And look at that, guys, just a thin line, really soft, something we can erase when we want, or just paint over and it won't even be noticeable. You can trace as much or as little detail as you want, okay? You can do all the nerves of the leaves or just add it on later. It is your call. I like to make it as, general as possible and then add the details later. I think that works best for me. Okay, guys, let's see how this is looking, and there we have it, a nice little sunflower traced in absolutely no time, ready to be painted. Now, for all of you who watch these incredible professional watercolor artists painting these mind-blowing scenes and you think I will never be able to do what they do, guess what? This is how they do it, and anyone can do it too. You don't have to know how to draw to know how to paint, okay? That is such a big misconception. If you take a picture of a flower or a landscape or whatever it is, you can get it onto paper and paint it perfectly. No drawing required. This is as cheap and as simple as it gets. But there is another way to do it when you're trying to make composite images. So you see, this is my paper. I just get it onto whatever it is I want to transfer into watercolor paper. And I just line it up. Imagine you've been drawing a lot of elements over time. Flowers, characters, whatever it is. Tracing paper allows you to make a composition of several elements because since it's sheer, you can see exactly where you're going to place it, and that's a tremendous help. Yes, you do have to outline the elements twice, so once over the original image and another when you're applying it to the watercolor paper, but it just works so well when you're combining several elements. It really is the best way. And as far as tracing goes, all I need to do is get a B pencil, whatever B pencil you have, something greasy and really soft. So this is where I drew it, right? I turn it around, I do like this. You can do this with chalk, you can do this with a graffiti stick, you can do this with a pencil, and then we turn it around again, just like this, and we retrace our drawing. Let's see how we're doing, guys. So just lift our tape, and this is it. Very soft, exactly what we want, easy to erase. And let's keep going. And there we have it, our 3 poppies ready to go. And if there's something I don't like, I just erase, and if I want to reinforce a line, I just trace it gently with my pencil, and we're good to go. How quick was that, guys? And how easy. You may get some smudges if you press your hand while you're drawing, but like this one right here, but guess what? And move on. So yeah, this works pretty well. It's time to get a little bit fancy here, because the next way I have to show you how to transfer your image onto your watercolor paper is by using a light pad. And I have to say, this is so practical. I use it all the time. I love my light pad. Let me show you. Let me start with the cons of using a light pad, okay? So the first one is you cannot use a watercolor block because you need the light to be able to shine through your watercolor paper. And if it's a block, you won't be able to. Second biggest con, which for me, when I first realized this con, it was such a major letdown for me. So you cannot use books with a light pad because books are two-sided, right? So when you put the book here, you get the drawing in first and you get the drawing that you have in the back, right? So this doesn't work. The way you use books with a light pad is, unfortunately, by scanning and printing whatever it is you want to draw, and then use it in order to trace it. That's the only way this works. The darker the better. This isn't very dark, but you can definitely see all the colors, all the details. And you don't have to worry about getting any kind of smudges here. That is not an issue. We're not working with graphite or anything like that. And by the way, guys, if you have a different way to transfer your images onto your watercolor paper that I haven't mentioned here, please let me know. I'm always on the lookout for stuff like that. Here you are drawing directly onto the paper, okay? So you really want your lines to be thin. And there we go, guys. This is what we get. Easy peasy, nothing to it. Really easy and quick to do. Before there were light pads, there were tablets and laptop screens, right? Which pretty much do the same thing, except you don't need a printed version of the drawing. So if you're picking stuff online, just place the paper onto your screen, full brightness, and outline away. If it's something you've drawn, you can take a photo of it or scan it onto your computer and then trace over the screen. Or if you're super duper lucky, you'll own a printer that allows watercolor paper, and that's even easier. You just get the image on the computer and print it. However, this does require some equipment, and the line that gets printed cannot be deleted, so there's no way to hide it. And now you get to decide which method you prefer, and let me know in the comments. And I'll see you soon. Bye bye!